David Blaine tore a playing card and then restored it, thereby fooling Kelly Clarkson and her huge audience. And I will show you exactly how to do that. So, let's get started. So here is how this trick is done. It's very easy, very simple and very straightforward, but while you're learning it, it might be confusing because of the number of steps that are involved in this trick. But I promise you this is very simple. If you don't understand any part, just rewind and watch that part back so that you can understand this trick. I'll try my best to explain this to you in the best way possible, but I want you to be thorough with this trick because if you're here to learn, well, this is what you're going to get. So first of all, you need to know that not everything that happens in a magic show has to be linked with the magic trick. For example, David Blaine threw the cards at the beginning of the show that has nothing to do with this magic trick. Although this magic trick is very good when you're performing it with a group of people or with a group of friends, like a small group, not just one person, more than one person. It could be two. If it's more than two, it's even better. Now, for the first step, all you need is basically a duplicate playing card. Now, over here, these two cards are duplicates. These two are nine of diamonds. Now, how do you get a duplicate card? It's a very simple thing. Get another deck like this and take one card from there, and that's how you get a duplicate card. So, once you have a duplicate card, you're going to place both of those duplicates onto the top of the deck. Now, it really doesn't matter where you actually place them because you're going to give this deck of cards to the spectator for shuffling. But if you place them on the top of the deck, there's a high chance that after the shuffling of the deck, the cards are going to end up in nearly about the same position, or most of the times they are going to be ending up side by side. So let's just say once the deck has been shuffled by the spectator and they hand it over to me, I tilt the deck towards myself and I go through the deck while telling a story. Now, what story I tell? That's very interesting. So, what I do is I tilt the cards towards myself and I tell that, so you shuffle this deck very well. I can see all the cards are totally mixed. And what I'm doing is basically when I've tilted the deck towards myself, I'm going through the cards, I'm telling the story, and I'm actually looking for the nine of diamonds. And as you can see over here, the nine of diamonds ended up side by side even after that shuffle. So what happens is when I find the nine of diamonds, I basically pull one of them behind with my fingers over here. I pull one of them behind and then I turn the deck towards the spectator and then I keep spreading and telling them a story like, do you think that I can memorize this deck? Most probably. Is it worth it? No. And once you have taken the break, you casually turn both your hands and then put the nine of diamonds on top. Now, as I told, since you have started on the top, there's a high probability they are going to be ending up side by side. And when they end up side by side, it's the most amazing. Both the cards are at the top. Now, from over here, we are going to go into the next part, which is the forcing of the card. So, David Blaine uses the classic force, which is a really classic move, but it does not always work with every single type of spectator. For me, I think Riffle Force does a better job, so I'll do the Riffle Force. I'll ask the spectator to say stop, and then all I'm going to do is basically take the card that's from over there. And that's how I just did the Riffle Force, and I know the next nine of diamonds is over here. Now I don't see the card, okay? The spectator says stop, I do the Riffle Force, they take the card, they look at it, and while they're looking at it, I take the next nine of diamonds and I put it on the top of the deck. So I'm set for the next move. So they have the nine of diamonds in their hand. I tell them, don't show me, even though I know what card they have chosen. Such a funny part. And after they have shown it to everyone, I riffle down the side of the deck and I ask them to push it anywhere they want. And let's say they push it over here. Now all I do is basically turn over the top card and they're going to be expecting that it's their card. Now, of course, the top card is the nine of diamonds, but I'm not going to be turning over the top card. I do a double lift. I take a break under the top two cards. I can take it by doing a pinky break or whatever you want. And then I do a double lift and show them that this is a card. Now, they say that this is not their card. I will say that I never told you that this is going to be your card, but this is a card. What I'm going to do is basically I'm going to tear this card into pieces. Now what I do is I again turn two cards as one. Now remember there are two cards over here. So the actual top card is the nine of diamonds, which is the spectator selection. Now for the spectator, it feels like the king of clubs is the top card. So I'm going to turn two cards as one, take the top card, I'll just fold it in half just like this, and then I'll tear it along this way. It feels so bad when I'm tearing cards, but anyways, and I'll make sure that the spectators are not getting a peek of what these cards are, and then I'll give it a fold like that, and then again tear the cards this way, and then ask the spectator to hold the pieces. Now they are going to think that this is the king of clubs that I tore, right? So I'll just keep it right over here so that you can see it the entire time. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the spectator what was the card that they have selected. So the spectator will say the nine of diamonds. I even though I know it's just a formality to ask so that they know that I don't know. I mean they feel like it. So I find the nine of diamonds and this is what I do. I take the nine of diamonds and I hand it over to the spectator. And when the spectator looks at the nine of diamonds, I take the top card, which they think has been torn over here, but that's the other nine of diamonds. They think that the king of clubs is over here. I take the actual top card, which is still the king of clubs. I take it, I actually press it, I push it out, press it against my body, and turn it over. And then I keep my hand this way so that nobody sees that there is one card face up on the top of the deck, which is the king of clubs. Now, what happens is, I take their card then and I put it like this over here, face up, on the top of the king of clubs that is still face up. Now, here's the most important part. The spectator thinks that this is the king of clubs, so all we are going to do is another double lift and turn it over. So now we have the king of clubs over here, and that is the duplicate torn nine of diamonds. And I'm going to place the king of clubs over here or just wave it on top of it, just like a magical gesture that I did something. And then they are going to turn this card over and see that this is the king of clubs now. But this was the card that was torn over there. And they will never think that this was actually the nine of diamonds, the duplicate one that I tore from the very beginning. So that's the most important part of this trick. They never know what's going to happen next. And they're going to be shocked. They are going to show this to everyone that's around them. And that's why I told you that this is going to be a very nice trick if you're going to be showing it to a group of people, because they are going to be busy among themselves. Now, while they are showing it, and the spectator is also going to hold on to the king of clubs, it really doesn't matter. That card really doesn't matter. So this is what's going to happen. There's the other nine of diamonds over here, and I'm going to pretend to make this nine of diamonds go back to its previous form by making these pieces come together. And how can I do that? Well, there's a very nice technique of doing that in a very swift move, and that is just replace this card with that one. But that doesn't usually happen. You have to show that it's magical. So what you have to do is you have to fold this card into four pieces, just like you folded that card. But this one is going to be different. You are not going to show it to the spectator while folding it. So there are two ways you can do it. You can have the card and you can fold it in a technique that I have learned from YouTube called the Markari fold. Basically, turn the deck over, you hold it like this, make your thumb go over here a long distance so that you can use the other hand to bend the card. You can actually see, you can push the card back and then you push it against your thumb in order to fold it into four pieces. But there's a drawback to that method, that the card folding happens, but the folds are not uniform. You can see how the cards are uniformly torn over here. They seem like that they're uniformly torn. Each of these pieces looks the same as different. So I'm not going to go into that thing. Instead, I'm going to do a different thing. As I told you, they are going to be in a group of people. So what is going to happen when they're showing this torn piece to the spectator and when they're showing this king of clubs, in that moment while they are rattled up and while they are busy talking about all these things, all you're going to do is just take this card right in front of them. It really doesn't matter because they're not going to be paying attention to you. And this is the best part of this trick, because even if you're doing it right in front of them, you don't have to hide, so you don't have to get nervous. You just take this card and you just fold it, and then you fold it in a way that it looks like that you're doing something with the cards, but nobody is going to pay attention. So you fold it halfways and then you fold it another halfways, and then what you do is basically this thing. You have the card over here, you turn the deck and you hold this entire set with the deck of cards and all this, not all this folded 9 of diamonds with your right hand. I'm going to be moving my body from left to right in order to hand this card to this other spectator. Now there has to be a spectator on my left, there has to be a spectator on my right. So over here what happens is, let's just forget about this king of clubs. The spectator on my left is going to be holding on to the 9 of clubs. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to immediately tell them, so okay, give me the 9 of diamonds. While I'm holding these pieces like that and all these pieces are in my hand, all I'm going to do is just turn them over and I'm going to square them. You see all these pieces are over here. Let me do something, let me try something different. And all I'm going to do is just turn towards the spectator on my right. And in that very big movement, all I'm doing is I'm just transferring the deck of cards to this other hand, just like that. And then I'm turning my hand. That's what is going to happen. And this is very natural. It looks like that you're actually changing hands. It looks like that you have taken the torn pieces from this hand and you've put it onto this hand. And so what happens is that the torn pieces, they stay under the deck right over here, and you hold on to the actual folded card. And what you do is basically ask the spectator on the right to hold on to these cards. Sorry, don't ever tell that. You tell the other spectator that hold on to these pieces tight, squeeze them in your hand. So while you turn, you give them, you ask them to hold on to the pieces tight, squeeze their hand, and they're going to do exactly that. And all you're going to do is just in front of them, take this entire deck and put it inside your pocket along with these 4 pieces. What happens over there is you got rid of the 4 pieces and then you can bring your hands around and you can say, you can see my hands are now empty. I don't have any deck or anything in my hand. And that is it. The trick is already done. All you have to do is just make some magical gesture. They're never going to be suspecting you of putting any 4 pieces inside your pocket because they are never going to know that. They are only going to think that you took the 4 pieces and put it inside the other spectator's hand where he is squeezing it tightly. So when he is squeezing it tightly, all you need to do is just do some magical gesture. Or as David Blaine did in his performance, he just used one of his hands. He just pushed one of his fingers in and just said, let me try to adjust. And it's basically nothing. It's just a stupid gesture that you have to pull out so that it looks like that you did something, but you actually did not. The cards are intact. And you ask the spectator, what do you want to do to the pieces? If they say, make it go back to the single card. And this is what the spectators say without a doubt, that make it go back to how it was before. Arrange the pieces together and make the card go back to the position or the form where it was never torn. That is what amazes them, and that's why they want that. So it's a win-win thing, even if you don't ask them that question. All you need to do is just some magical gestures, and you ask the spectator to turn their hand over and open it. They're going to see one folded card, and they're going to open the card and they're going to get shocked because it is going to be the same exact card that they have selected. And that is how you basically do this trick with just one duplicate card that you have inside this deck. And you can do this literally anywhere. There's literally no setup required because, as you saw, you're going to let the spectator shuffle the deck of cards. The only thing that you have to do is a card force, a double lift, a switch while you're changing the deck, and that's it. That's how easy it's going to be to do this trick. And it looks like that this trick is so much amazing because it gives amazing reactions. And that's it for the tutorial.